morning. Today we have the pleasure to be with Gary Bloom, who is CEO of Marklogic. Gary Bloom, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Our readers don't know probably Marklogic, or some of them, so we're going to start to present the company. You've been founded in 2001 in the name of Cerism, and you changed name after that. You are in what we call NoSQL database, or more specifically non-relational multimodal database. You're going to explain that. You have about 500 employees. You are a private owned company in the US sense of the
right.
And about 1,000 customers. Is this a fair presentation of your company?
Those are all perfectly fair representations.
So could you explain a little bit, because I mentioned NoSQL and then I said more specifically a non-relational multimodal database. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so if we think about what databases have been, the database market's been defined by for the last 30 years was relational. Meaning that we always thought about data in rows and columns,
exactly.
Organizationally,
yeah.
and relational technology was never very good at unstructured data, video content, voice content, media content, and so forth. So Marklogic back in 2001 had this vision that says, hey, there's all different kinds of data. What if we brought search technology, traditional search technology from the internet, but bring that over so you could actually search corporate data? And that was our founder's vision. Was he was working on internet search engines, and he said, on the internet you can find all kinds of information, but in a company you can't. So he built a search engine to search corporate data, and he realized to search it, because of all that unstructured content and all the multi-model content, that it was very difficult to search unless you stored and managed it differently. And so he started Marklogic, and it was a decade later that the analyst community said, we don't know what to call all these databases, so we'll call them all NoSQL databases. But there's a lot of differences between different NoSQL databases.
And so this was before the Hadoop movement and Hadoop technology, right? Or is this, how do you position the Marklogic technology with Hadoop?
With Hadoop?
Yeah.
So Hadoop was a technology that said, for analytics, we want the ability to aggregate data very quickly so we can do analytics. Large corporations have struggled with Hadoop, because as I integrate all that data, I don't maintain the lineage of the data, I don't maintain the governance and the rules, I don't maintain security principles. So what's ended up happening is it solved the problem of bringing the data together, but for corporations, I need to know where the data came from. If I'm a regulated industry, I'm a bank, we do a lot of post-trade processing. And if I'm a bank and I have to look at that data and I have to do regulatory reporting from all that consolidated data, I need to know where it came from. I need to know who touched it. I need to know who updated it. I need to know when the data came in, or the temporality, the time dimension of data. And Hadoop has failed at that at the end of the day. And that's something that Marklogic does. Is, in fact, we have customers now that call their integration of data their Marklogic data lake. The big difference is we have security and governance and data lineage and audit trails. So we're basically maintaining the value of the data, not just putting it together.
So in a way you define, you answer the question I was going to ask you, but in the NoSQL world, which is everybody except the relational database, so a lot of different things, how do you differ to your competitors? What's very specific to Marklogic?
Yeah, well, for a long time, really from inception, and as other players came to the market, we were always known as the enterprise players. The company that worried about data quality and security, worried about disaster recovery and reliability. And so we were purpose-built for the enterprise customers.
All things you need to have a database that runs,
that runs a big production system. Right. I mean, we do post-trade processing. We're the database underneath Obamacare, where 21 million US citizens get their healthcare insurance. For those kind of systems, those are mission-critical systems, and our customers build mission-critical systems on Marklogic. And there's a big difference between having a database, which is what most of the others do, that lets you look at data, versus I look at the data and I run my business based on that data. And so we're on the kind of the run the business side as well as the look at the business side.
Okay.
Most of those other technologies really just give you a view into the data. In corporations, once I have a view of it, I want to do something.
Right.
I want to build transactions. I want to do other business processes. And so that we're the mission critical provider.
Okay, so in the Magic Quadrant, you know, pretty famous, you have 100 of them, and the one that relates to what you're doing, you are in the challenger side, which is, you know, the square that's up, and on the left side, we're on the move on the right side. And to be fair, on the right side, you just have, you know, the big corporation and big ones. And so they give you, you know, strengths of execution, functionalities, securities. You just, you know, said that. Support and services, which is also a good plus. But then on the other side, on the weaknesses side, they said that it looks to be a pretty difficult technology that it's difficult to find developers skills for the development. It's not easy to deploy and integrate with other database. And the last one is when you launch a product, you pioneers the technology. Now you have competitors. What do you have to say to that?
Yeah, so you know, it's a technology shift. We're going through a generational shift to technology. We've been in the relational era for 30 plus years. And so it's not that it's difficult to use, it requires different skills. You have to think about your data differently. And we think about the data differently. In relational, you think about the data in lots of silos. In Marklogic, what we do is we integrate data and we bring it together. And so you have to suddenly start thinking about how you build an application and think about your data differently. All of our interfaces and all of our programmatic part of Marklogic, that's all open. It's REST APIs and Java and all the things that all the modern developers want to do. But you do have to think about your data differently, and then keeping in mind, we're building complex business systems. We're not building and powering websites. And so a lot of the other technologies are good for web portals, but they're not very good for running your business and doing your regulatory reporting or having the 360-degree view of your customer or a marketplace for healthcare insurance. They're not good for those mission-critical workloads. But I think more than anything, it's just a generational shift. And I can think back, you know, as you know, I was a longtime Oracle employee back in the mid-90s, or actually in the mid-80s up through the year 2000. And if I look back at that time, we had the same complaint about Oracle at the time. Is, oh, there's no skills, you can't use it for mission critical, it's not for this. And the reality is, it's because there were millions and millions of mainframe developers, and distributed computing with Oracle and relational technology was totally different. Well, we're going through that again. We just haven't been through it for 30 years. And people forget that, you know, technology does shift, it does change. Database technology doesn't move quite as fast as some things because it's much more complicated software. It doesn't get built overnight. And
talking about difficulty to find skills, I mean, now it's difficult to find people on mainframes because, you know, the one we need now are retired.
Yeah, they're all old guys like me now. Yeah, what's funny about it, though, what we're doing on the skill side, though, is we're also taking advantage of new platforms, the cloud being most important. And we're now offering a Data Hub service. And the Data Hub service says, I'll install and run the database for you. I will also give you the Data Hub framework, what we call an operational data hub, and that's the environment where you put all your data. And that's a point and click in Amazon, and I point and click and I fill out a few fields, my network set up, my security set up, the database is installed, and the hub is ready for data loading. So we're taking advantage of the cloud, essentially, to simplify the time to results and the speed at which you come up to speed on the technology. And it's changing things because at the end of the day, one of the biggest problems we have in the tech industry is we have a labor shortage. And it's, you know, there's a shortage, you know, there's so much technology and data is so important, there's not enough people. So we as a vendor can do a lot more for our customers by delivering Data Hub, not just on top of the database, making it easy to integrate data, delivered as a service in the cloud.
So your solution is available in the cloud as an image and as a PaaS, right? So could you explain what it means? And so also you're available on Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, of course, the three major public cloud.
Yeah, so we actually, when it comes to what clouds do we run on, we think about cloud neutrality. So, and cloud neutrality for us is build your application once and run it wherever you want to run it.
Okay.
And that's really important for enterprises because different cloud vendors in different parts of the world will have different capabilities. And they'll have different ability to meet the needs of large enterprises. And you want the ability based on prices and technology shifts to move one to another. So we had one customer who went all the way into the Google environment, realized that was a little bit too costly. They moved it back on premise, never had to change any Marklogic, and then they implemented hybrid cloud with Amazon. They run partly on premise, partly in Amazon, all with Marklogic.
So it's
seamless.
It's available multi-cloud and hybrid cloud.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when we get into Amazon and Microsoft, we have database just as a service where you can point and click and you can buy it through the marketplace at Amazon or the marketplace through Microsoft. What we've done on Amazon additionally is we've actually said, okay, well, we're not going to offer database as a service, because database as a service doesn't really help you with the labor problem. What people do with our database is they build operational data hubs. They integrate data from silos. So if I'm trying to do an ERP consolidation, I have a customer that has 140 different HR systems. They get their single 360-degree view of their employee through a Marklogic data hub. I have manufacturers doing the same thing with manufacturing data that says I have hundreds of plants, but I want lineage of parts. I want to know what parts created where across my whole enterprise. Well, that can be in Marklogic. So what we've done is we've said, instead of just offering managed database in the cloud, we actually put the data hub on top of it, and the service you're buying is the data hub. And when you buy the data hub service through the cloud, Amazon's running the hardware, but we're procuring the hardware. We're setting it up and configuring it. We're installing the database. We're installing the data hub. Everything you need is there, so you can point and click and start loading your data into Marklogic and immediately start getting business value out of your data. So what we're doing is we're compressing the time to results even further. We already build things in about 10% of the time that it takes to build things in relational technology, and now we're taking out all the administrative headaches that go with new technologies.
So it solves the problem of technical skills.
It does, because the interfaces are open. So if I can program in normal, programmatic languages, I can program Marklogic.
What's the share of your customer on the cloud right now?
Our estimate of, and it's kind of hard to look at customers, it's a little bit, you have to look at compute capacity. I would say it's probably less than 10% of the total compute capacity. A year from now, based on 2 or 3 just major government clients we have that are making large-scale moves, where they're moving hundreds in one cases, and in one case thousands of computer processors into the cloud, I think we'll have probably about 1/3 of our compute capacity will be through the cloud within a year.
Who is doing what? I mean,
it's all in progress. Right. You have to keep in mind that the cloud, it was very popular for the low end of the marketplace, but 3 years ago, I remember being at a dinner with Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase. 3 to 4 years ago, he said, my data will never be in the cloud. Yet today, JP Morgan, if you ask him the same question, he'll talk about where the cloud fits into their strategy. So the cloud is it's more recent that the enterprises started embracing the cloud. We're actually enabling and giving the power of the cloud to enterprises, because we have a security capability that says, when I put my data up in the cloud, I can secure it. I can secure it from the administrators of the system. I can secure it while it's at rest. I can secure it while it's in transmission. And then we take it a little further. It's not about keeping people out. We allow companies that create these big repositories to safely share their data. And so we're known for our security capabilities. Something else that Gartner Group acknowledged is our capabilities of advanced security. In fact, we have large intelligence agencies that are starting to move to the Amazon cloud, because in Marklogic, I can secure that information.
Okay. Let's talk, of course, a little bit about the French market. You've been in France for about 3 years now. Could you give us some names of customers and what they do with Marklogic?
Yeah, sure. And I'm not an expert on your French market. I work globally, so I have to think about lots. One of our early customers here was OECD. And we started working.
It's based in French, but not that French.
Yeah, not that French, but it's an entity that's providing IT services and doing data management for a global operation, and a really important cause on top of it. And we gave them the ability to essentially have all their data in a Marklogic environment. And it goes back to safe sharing and distribution. It opened up all that data and all that policy and all that research information to a broad set of users around the globe. And that's a pretty common use case for our product, is kind of what I characterize as a research portal. I put a lot of research data in and I make it available.
For them, the cloud is perfect, right?
The cloud will ultimately be a perfect solution for them, because it will also help them with the distribution globally of their data. Because remember, the cloud isn't one cloud. The cloud is assembled of regions of clouds.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so it's multiple clouds in multiple parts of the world.
Based on data center at the end.
Based on data center and latency and all those things. So there are a lot of advantages to the cloud. And then we're working with the rail company here as well.
SNCF.
Yeah, and in the rail industry, it's really about, you know, kind of parts and purchasing the parts and how you get goods and services. So it's almost all of our use cases in France mirror our use cases everywhere else in the globe, in that it's always creating a 360-degree view. We're creating a view of the data that says the data might be spread out in hundreds of places, but we're going to give you a 360-degree view.
So do you think you're going to stay a solution for large companies, and or is there any way you can, you know, downgrade, or I don't know, how do you say that, to smaller entities? And so I suppose you will have to simplify, and the cloud would probably be a way to do it, and to give the technology available, you know, click and point services.
Yeah, and we've seen a little bit of that just in the first couple of weeks after announcing the service, is we have a new kind of customer now looking at Marklogic. And, you know, the technology has all the requirements of enterprises, but when I think about data governance and reliability and security, those are as important to small, medium businesses as they are to large. It's just that they weren't as focused on it, and they might have been willing to make trade-offs.
It's even worse for them because they don't have the resources to do it.
That's right, and so what's happening is with the cloud services, without a doubt, with the Data Hub as a service up there, I open up a much broader marketplace to Marklogic, because I don't have to be an expert on database. I don't have to be an expert on setting up big data centers and complex environments. You know, it's all self-service. A lot of the difficult part is done for you. And so we're actually seeing, you know, very early on, we're starting to see some interest from people, and interest down not just in the lower end of the market, but even some departmental people where somebody just shows up, somebody we hadn't previously talked to. Because with the enterprise tends to come an enterprise class relationship. For us to be successful here in France, we have sales, we have technical sales, we have consultants, we have solutions experts, we have marketing, we have alliance relationships with third parties. So we have to come into a marketplace, and we have to have the people and the staff and the skills to service large corporate clients. And that's not really a web business, that's still a people business. And we have the people to go do that here in France. What the cloud does is it opens it up to those customers that either don't have an expectation or don't need a high-touch sales team to be working with them.
Okay, well, I think we've done a pretty detailed overview. Gary Blum, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.